Rise and Above podcast. My name's David Hess, and today I have a good friend of mine with me. He's also a coworker. His name is Chance Harrington, and I guess without further ado, could you introduce yourself, Chance?
Yeah, I'm Chance. Was born and raised in Okemos, Michigan. I have 2 kids and live in Ithaca now, in Ithaca, Michigan, and work at GM, like you said. That's pretty much the gist of it. So
Cool. So you have always kind of been pretty open about your past.
Yep.
And the kind of the struggles you've gone through, and you definitely aren't shy about talking about any of it. So kind of going back to the past a little bit, do you mind telling me, some of your first memories of what life was like, and kind of leading up into your adulthood, what led into you having to search recovery?
So, like I said, I was born in Lansing, or Okemos, Lansing area, and my mom was a crack addict for most of my childhood. I was born addicted to cocaine, so I started life off kind of rough. I got taken away from my mom at 6 months old. There were diapers in the house everywhere. My diaper hadn't been changed for 3 days. It was a mess. So I went to live with my grandmother at 6 months old. And then just from there, the abuse continued. Both my grandmother and my mom abused me, and they abused me bad.
What kind of abuse are we talking about?
My grandma sexually abused me from the age of 5 to 10, and then my mom physically abused me since I was born. So it was just how I didn't end up with shaken baby syndrome or anything like that. I have no idea. But it was rough, and my grandpa was the only person that didn't abuse me, but he also knew about it and didn't do anything about it. So that's kind of annoying. So when I was 10, a lot of the abuse I don't remember. I remember a lot of the sexual abuse later, like 7, 8, 9.
Do you think it was due to like traumatic, just it being a traumatic experience that you just kind of forgot about it?
That was part of it, yeah. Trying to shut it out and not remember. And I put my grandma on such a high pedestal that she cared about me and loved me that I pushed a lot of that stuff away. And it wasn't until later in life when I figured out, oh, that's not good.
And that's something she shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, that's not something that's normal. But when I was 10, she passed away, and I ended up having to go back to my mom, and that's where a lot of the insane abuse really started. I've had a gun put to my head. I've had knives put to my body and stabbed a couple times. My mom and she said she doesn't remember any of this stuff, which is whatever. It is what it is. But I remember it, and it's weird to have her say that and not. Now I'm kind of caught in, is it real or But through all my recovery, I've learned that I got to trust in my gut, and it's real, and it's a lot to process, but it's getting there. We're getting to that point. But my mom put me through a ton, and it was just mostly me. I have a sister, a 31-year-old sister as well, and she didn't go through half the stuff I went through. And yet she's more messed up than I am, so I don't know how that worked. But yeah, it was, and then at 12 I went to foster care, and my mom still abused me after that. Mentally, verbally, and physically, she still abused me. A lot of my issues are from that, going back to her house and thinking, okay, things are going to be okay, and then it was abuse and verbal abuse. And even I'm 30, I don't even know how old I am anymore. I'm 32 now, I think, and she still verbally abuses me. She still does it, and it's hard to get away from. So it's tough.
So is that a type of relationship you just kind of feel like you have to stay in, or I don't mean to like put your mom on blast or anything.
She's really good with my kids, and my wife kind of deals with her as far as the kids are concerned. But my son, we've kind of raised him to be like, if Grandma does something to you, you let us know. And so far, he hasn't said anything. They have a blast with my mom, and she's really good grandma, and that's why we keep in contact with her. But if I had my choice, I wouldn't talk to her ever again. But I gave her the opportunity to have a relationship with my kids, and she took it and has done really well with it. And so I give her credit for that. It's just I don't know why she couldn't do that when I was a kid. That's one of the frustrating parts of watching her, take care of my kids and be a really good grandma. And it's like, couldn't do that 20 years ago.
Well, I mean, some of that's kind of true in my life too. Like with my, I mean, my situation.
Yeah.
I've talked about it on the podcast as well. Same with me. My family. They, growing up, they kind of didn't treat me too well, and then as an adult, it seems like they've gotten older and got more lenient and on how they like think about things and the way they treat like their grandkids, and same thing too. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it has something to do with getting older,
Right.
and maybe they decided that, or they realized rather that they messed up,
Right.
and they want to be better and kind of start over with their grandkids.
Yeah. I think some of it too has to do with, at least in my mom's perspective, is she got sober, and she kind of I think she still struggles with her sobriety a little bit, but and that kind of opened her eyes of, hey, I can do this better now. I'm going to take a chance. I lost my kids twice. How you do that, I have no idea. So I'm going to make this a little bit different. But then she still abuses me and doesn't want to have a relationship with me. And it's just, I don't know. It's just something she doesn't like about me, or I don't know what happened. But
How does she abuse you now?
mostly verbally. She, anytime my wife and I plan a vacation, she's always trying to downgrade it. Like, she's always very negative. She hates that I'm successful. It's just it's mostly verbal abuse now. I haven't. Well, she physically abused me a couple years ago, but that was fun. Nothing like controlling a 50-year-old woman trying to beat your butt. But I mean, it was interesting. It was an interesting day. But yeah, it still happens to this day, and I think those are days, and she's struggling with her sobriety, and she's struggling to. She's 50 years old and she's going to be homeless. I mean, that's got to be something that's got to be pretty tough. Imagine going through that your whole life. It can't be easy. But she still takes it out on me, and it's just one of those things of like, am I like your perpetual punching bag? Like, I'm glad you feel better after that, but I get more confused.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting.
It kind of sounds like she's kind of like you said. Her life has kind of been a mess, I guess, essentially her whole life, and it's sad. It's sad to see because obviously it affects the ones that she should love and
Right.
the ones that should love her. So that's sad, but I mean at least she does love her grandchildren,
Yeah.
your children. So you kind of you've kind of always realized that you've had issues.
Yeah.
I don't know if mentally or like emotionally. You've always, since I've known you, you've checked yourself into rehab a few different times. What are those moments like when you decide that you need to do something? You need to change. You need to figure out something. What's going on in your head?
So a lot of times it has to do with issues I have at work, either work or home. I've gotten into a few violent outbursts, which I don't really remember. And that's when I'm kind of like, okay, I need to go figure something out and try to get. And I've been going in and out of rehab for 20 years, and nobody's been able to tell me, hey, you have this, hey, you have that, you're struggling with this. They're just like, here's some pills, go anyway. So I've always struggled with that because I know something's wrong, and nobody will tell me what. And then this last episode I had, April, I think, early April, end of March, I ended up in Arizona at a rehab center, and they actually diagnosed me with PTSD and gave me pills and said, this is what, started new therapies called EMDR, and we went through and really worked.
What is that? You want to explain
I'm not
that?
sure what it stands for, but what it is like, it's like electromagnetic therapy kind of.
They're shocking you.
Well, not that far, but like you have vibrations in your hand, you have vibrations in your ear.
Okay.
And then you follow this light bar And what it's supposed to do is to train your brain to think both left and right brain. So when you're abused, you think on the right side of your brain. You don't really think on the left because you're in fight or flight mode all the time. So it's training your brain to think on both sides, to be able to process things a little bit better. So that's a therapy I started to do, and it brought out.
So it connects. You said you follow the light bar.
Yep.
And you told me this a little while ago. So you have a vibration in your right hand, a vibration in your left hand, and you follow a light bar back and forth. And by following that light bar and feeling this here and feeling this here, it connects both sides of the brain.
Yes. Yep, and it helps your brain process trauma, or even come up with trauma that you didn't remember, and be able to process it in a different way.
Wow.
And it's really powerful kind of therapy.
How did you feel afterwards?
I cried. I felt physical pain when we went to the
Wow.
sexual abuse part. It was intense, but it felt better because you released all that stuff, and it was in a safe place. And the therapist brought my grandma and sat her in the chair and said, "What would you say if she was sitting right here right now?" As we're doing this process, and I bawled my eyes out because it's just one of those things I've always regretted, not being able to tell her, "Hey, I know what you did, and I hate you for it." And to be able to have that time to be able to say that to her during this process was intense. It was very intense, but the place I went to in Arizona was amazing. They focused just on you and how you can process your life going forward. And I haven't had many issues since I've been home. It's only been a couple months, but it's been much better now that I have a diagnosis and I can deal with that and process how that works.
So, kind of going back to the other times you checked yourself into like rehab, what were those times like? I mean, because you would go in and then you'd be out for a few months, and then a couple months later have to check yourself back in. Were they not doing the same type of thing? Were they just kind of giving you medication, like you said, and then just sending you on your way? They weren't, or maybe send you to therapy.
Yeah. So my experience in Michigan with mental health hospitals especially is you are a number. You are a patient that they want to push out as fast as possible. I went to Grand Rapids hospital there, and you see the doctor for 5 minutes, he tells you something, and then he sends you off with a medicine, and they don't really check if it works. And it's just it's frustrating because you're trying to figure out your life, and it just seems like there's so many people they don't really care. And that's just been my experience. They'll ship you to a therapist, and then the therapist really doesn't care, at least the ones I've had. And I've been doing therapy since I was 10, so
Wow.
a long time. And that's just been my experience. And I go to Arizona, and it was just completely different. It was completely one-on-one. Even though they had a lot of people there, you had your own team of people working with you to make sure you got everything done. But it's frustrating to have to keep checking myself in Michigan and not get the help I need at home. To have to travel that far to get the help you need is kind of worrisome. Other people that are struggling with the same thing, maybe not having the same opportunities to go, somewhere else that will really help you.
Well, I imagine it probably costs a lot of money to be able to go do something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, there's so many people in the mental health system with mental disorders, and there's just so many lack of resources for these people. So going into these these mental hospitals or rehab, for one, how many times do you think you've had to go into?
Oh man, at least 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yep, since I was 10 years old. I've been to jail 30 sometimes, and I've been to mental hospitals at least 15, maybe more than that.
Now, would you say that going to jail would be like an outcome of your mental illness?
A lot of it, yes. A lot of my outbursts, I don't remember. So waking up and hearing what I've done is kind of weird. Like
You're like, oh shit.
like, oh man, this is gonna suck.
I did what?
Yeah, and I've had that conversation with my wife. I don't know how many times. I'll call her and be like, "Why am I here?" She'd be like, "Well, you did this, 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 and this." I'm like,
She says it like that. Oh, you did this,
Yeah,
this, and
yeah,
this.
It's yeah, it's like she's a. It's nothing new to her. Like it's gonna happen, and I feel bad about that. And luckily we haven't had an incident in like 3 years, and that's part of me trying to. I think part of it's growing up, and part of it's trying to go get the help that I need. And it's been nice to not have to go to jail for 3 years.
I'm sure.
But at the same time, I wish I would have learned that a long time ago.
Right.
And not had to put her through what I put her through, and it's really affected our marriage. It's affected our relationship. She's my best friend. I've known her for 15 years, been with her for 15 years, and it's struggle. It's a struggle to get that trust back and to get the pieces back in place. And luckily she stuck by my side and helped me through a lot. And she didn't have to. I was this foster kid, 16, 17-year-old foster kid, and she's like, I'll give you a chance. And she stuck with me for a long time. So I appreciate everything she's done. She's been my rock and the only reason that I'm here. That I'm sitting right here right now and not in prison or dead or whatever else would have happened. So I'm glad she stuck around.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you said that your wife has been supportive of you, and has been for the entire time you've been together. You guys have been together for a long time.
Yeah.
Since high school, right?
Yep.
What about your kids? How do they feel about this when they see, I mean, this is kind of, I'm sure, a little touchy, but, like they see their dad go to jail and they see their dad struggling from this mental illness. What is the reaction to this?
My son is kind of used to it, which kind of sucks. My son's seen me in jail. My son's seen me in mental hospitals. So when Dad leaves, for a good portion of time, he kind of figures that's where I'm at, and he's okay with it. He acts out a little bit at home, as most 9-year-old boys that are struggling with that do. But my daughter, I don't think my daughter even notices. I really don't. I think she struggles with it a little bit because she's a daddy's girl and Dad's not home. But other than that, she doesn't really seem too bothered by it. But she's at that age. She's 4, so she's at that age where she's just like, whatever. Goes about her day. As long as she has her dolls and her toys, she's fine. But my son will probably need some therapy someday. He's been through some things himself, and he struggles. He struggles with it a little bit. But like I said, it's been 3 years since I went to the mental hospital, and we told him about that beforehand, so he was pretty much all set to go. So,
well, I imagine that him seeing you taking a proactive step into wanting to change your life and realizing, not somebody telling you, that there is an issue, that you need to fix it, will probably reflect positively back on him when he's older.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's what he gets from it, that you can ask it's okay to ask for help. You don't need to be forced to do it. It's okay to ask, and it's okay to struggle and tell somebody that you're struggling. And I hope that's something that he learns. He struggles with schoolwork and stuff like that, and I'm trying to teach him that it's okay to ask for help, but not to, I forgot what I was going to say there. It's okay to ask for help and not be ashamed about it.
Right.
And hopefully he can learn that and see Dad do it. Like, I'm not afraid to tell my story. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to be like, hey, this isn't working, and to go do it again. I mean, wouldn't be the first time.
Right.
So,
well, like I had said, ever since I've known you, you've openly talked about it, and it's kind of crazy too, because we'd just be working on the line, and you would be like, "Yeah, this, and this, and this happened." I'm just like, "How are you talking about that without like crying right now?"
And that's how I deal with it. I deal with it with humor, and a lot of times that's how I process something. I'll talk about it and then
joke about it.
I'll get in the car and I'll be like, "What the heck was that? Why?" But then I'll feel better about it because I talked about it, I got it out, I made a joke about it, and then I'm like processing it even later in the car on the drive home, and I'm like, "Man, I shouldn't have said that out loud." But it's just that's how I process. That's always how I process things, through humor, through being funny, and I'm so happy I have my sense of humor, because without it, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
I love making people laugh. I love, being goofy and silly, and that's just how I process, a lot of hard times. But
you should try being a comedian.
Yeah, I thought about that, except for I can't write worth a darn. I'd be better at just like picking on people, and that's that kind of like we do at work.
Right.
That kind of comedy, I love that stuff. But that's hard to come by. But yeah.
Yeah, ever since I've known you, you've always kind of had a positive attitude, and you've always kind of said things jokingly, even about your own story. And I'm just like, again, I'm like, how is he just talking about it? Like, because I don't talk about my story that way.
Right.
Like, the way I handle things, I make jokes about it too. Like, I'll joke about things and kind of like look at things from a comedic, I guess, perspective.
Right.
I'm just like, wow, okay, I guess that's what we're doing. But you just kind of make fun of yourself. You've always made fun of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for people to make fun of you when you make fun of yourself.
That's true.
And I really don't care. Like, if somebody makes fun of me, I'll make a joke right with them. Like,
Yep.
I'm just gonna take your thunder right from you. And I'm really good at that. And I think that's why, the ones that don't like me kind of stay away, and then the people that do like me, they become really close, and we have a good time. And there's a lot more people that like me than don't like me. I've always been the person that you can't be afraid to be yourself, because if you're not going to be yourself, then what's the point?
Yeah, you can't make the people who don't like you happy. So
Right, yeah, exactly.
you might as well just continue living life.
Yep.
Screw those people.
Yep, exactly. They're not supposed to be part of your life anyway. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, people come and go. You make friends, you lose friends, but the ones that
Yep.
really like you will stick around and support you and do things. And as long as you help them, they help you. It's a good relationship. People that don't like you, move on.
Screw them.
Time to go.
Yep. So you might tell me a little bit more about this facility that you went to in Arizona. It was in Phoenix, Arizona?
Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson. Okay.
Yeah.
And you went a couple months ago, you said.
Yeah. Yep.
When did you go?
I believe I went March 5th. It was called Sierra Tucson. It's in Tucson, Arizona, right in the Catalina Mountains. And it is a fantastic facility that just focuses one-on-one with you. You have a care team. So you have a psychiatrist, a primary therapist, and then you have nurses and stuff that will focus on what you need. And there's people behind the scenes that will also work on like your past and things like that. And then they put you in these programs. You have tracks. So you have addiction, mood, trauma, and then there's a couple other ones. And you focus on classes that are based on that. So like
based on what applies to you.
Yeah, right. So if you have an addiction, you go to the addiction track. You do AA or NA or whatever the program fits you the best, and then that's kind of the track you work on. And I was in the trauma track, so a lot of mental health things you can do to kind of ground yourself and put yourself back in your space, things like that. And then I had EMDR therapy, and then somatic experiencing, which is basically just talking about it and putting you in a spot where you feel comfortable processing that information.
You talk about it openly with the other people there,
with
or
a therapist.
With a therapist,
Yep.
okay.
And then she kind of will direct you in different ways to think about it, ways to process it. I didn't really care for that one as much. I don't think it worked for me, but for other people it might work pretty well. EMDR worked the best for me, and that's the nice thing about them. They have different modalities where you can figure out what you like.
Mm-hmm.
You can figure out what works for you, and if you don't like it, you go to these schedulers, and they'll change it, and they'll put you in different things that you might like. And it's a great place. It's a little frustrating at first because it's a campus type setting, so you're kind of on your own.
Wow.
But once you figure out how it works and how everything goes, man, it's a great place to be.
How many people were there?
There was probably 150, maybe a little bit less than that.
Wow.
So it was really a nice tight-knit group. You made friends pretty easily.
Was this 150 in the trauma unit?
No, this is all together.
Oh,
this
okay.
is in the whole area. And it might be less than that. It might be 100. But there were 3 dorms that you stayed in. And then you just go around the campus, till a certain time, and then you had to go to bed or whatever. But it was a great experience. Right in the Catalina Mountains, it was beautiful out there. You had a track you could go walk around.
Oh wow.
Swimming pool you could go swim in. Activity center you could go climb rock wall.
So it's not like a traditional kind of rehab place where you're checking in and it feels like you're in a hospital sitting.
Right. Yeah.
You're checking in, and then you're going to these courses or therapy, and then you get kind of some free time to just do activities, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like a resort.
A little bit, yeah. And your recovery is up to you. You don't have to go to your classes. That's up to you. But the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. I would hear people say all the time that this place isn't working. You know, I'm not getting what I need out of here. But then you'd never see them in class, or you'd see them walk out of a class 10 minutes later. Well, of course it's not working. You're not doing what you're supposed to.
Right, you're not putting the work in.
Exactly. You go to the classes, you do what you're supposed to do, you listen to the material, and you know you work the process, and it works. I mean, at least for most people, it works. I mean, they wouldn't be the number one place in Arizona, or you know, pretty close to in the country if they didn't, if it didn't work. And you work with your psychiatrist, your therapist, and you have a group of people that have been through a lot of the same things, called your primary group. And these are 5, 6, 7 people that listen to your story, listen to you 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow.
And you become really good friends with these people. And I still have a relationship with 3 of the people that I had my process group with.
Oh, cool.
And it's nice to be able to say, hey, I'm struggling with this right now, and then they support you and really help you through that particular situation. So it's nice to have those contacts, and they're from all around the country. One of my friends is from New York, the other is from California, and then another guy works here at Flint Truck and Bus.
Oh, really?
Well, it's kind of nice to have
Wow.
that, same
Support.
job and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and the support from other people to help you through an issue. Like, I don't
Right.
have to text my wife and be like, hey, I'm really struggling. And she'd be like, oh, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. I mean,
I don't know.
if it's not something she has dealt with, then with herself personally,
Right.
then it's kind of difficult to help somebody else through it,
Right.
or to understand even.
Yeah, and that's why it's nice to have those friends that have been through some of the same things. You can text them and be like, "Hey, I'm really struggling," and they're like, "Oh, well, what can we do? What can we do to help listen to you or help you kind of process that situation?" And it's nice to have that. It's nice to have something besides just having to go to my family who don't really understand the stuff that I went through. So that was probably the best part of coming home. Oh, and then another thing too, when you come home, they have a year where you have somebody from Sierra Tucson call you and check up on you, make sure everything's going okay, and then they have a person that will help you. If you need a therapist, if you need a psychiatrist, if you need meds, if you need anything like that, you can call them and they'll set it up for you. And that's lifetime, I believe. You
Wow.
get that service, and they're called care planners, and they work on a certain area, and they will help you get whatever you need. So my lady
Wow.
will set me up with EMDR, therapy, psychiatry, whatever I need, to help me get through, tough times or whatever I need, or my meds or whatever. And it's just a really nice tool to have. So they really support you after you come home too. So it's something that you need. It's a great place to go, and it follows you afterwards too, and they take care of you. So it's nice.
What is this place called again?
It's called Sierra Tucson.
Sierra Tucson.
Yep.
Okay. And so if one wants to go, if one wants to get involved or get help, and they want to check out this place, do they have to be referred by like a doctor? What's the...
I'm not real. I was referred by EAP rep.
Okay,
at
from work.
Yep, and they're the ones that took care of everything.
Okay.
As far as I think they have a number you can call, and they'll help start the process on their website. And then I think that's pretty much how it starts, with somebody getting an interview from you, getting your insurance, all that stuff from, and they go from there.
Okay.
But I think that's how they would start it. But everything was taken care of by the EAP rep, and then the care planner through Sierra Tucson. So it's pretty easy for me. But
So you went in March 5th, you said, right?
Yep.
And you were there for a month?
Yep.
So
a little over a month. Yeah.
Okay. And then you obviously had a good time while you were there, because it wasn't, again, a hospital setting.
Right.
And then you come home. What does that look like for you?
Home's been a bit of a struggle. I'm trying to balance work and everything like that again, and try to get things back into motion. And I've been kind of struggling with dissociation, and I feel like the meds are working, but then I don't take them sometimes, and it screws up the whole thing. So just getting used to taking meds and getting used to getting back in the process. And I'm finally back on day shift now, so that should help a little bit, hopefully.
Yeah, second shift is not good for your
Oh,
mental health.
no, not at
I will
all.
tell you. I'll be
Yeah.
the first to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're getting home at 3:30, then getting back up at 7 to take your kids to school, and your daughter's up at 8, and you're like, oh my God, this is never gonna end.
Yeah.
And then you have mental health on top of it. It's just it was wrecking everything.
I'm gonna quickly state what the hours for that were. It was 5 o'clock at night till 2:30 in the morning, right?
Yep.
And then you have to, if you have kids, you have to hurry home, get to bed, and then, like you said, wake up, take them to school, do whatever you got to do as a dad, and then maybe take a nap if you're lucky,
Right.
and then get back up and go to work again. It's a real miserable shift to be on.
Yeah,
I was on that for a little bit, and my mental health took a plummet. I had a bad attitude every day. I was constantly tired.
Yeah.
Dude, I was so just mentally exhausted and just overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. And people don't understand that that's why you're cranky.
Yeah.
And you don't see your family, but one day a week.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Oh, and that's another thing. We work 9 hours
Yep.
every single day, and most Saturdays and you have one day off to
Yep.
spend with your kids.
Yeah.
And then if you're on second, you sleep most of the day.
Right, because you're tired. And,
Yeah.
you're drained, and then your kids want to. They're not. They're
Right,
ready
they want to
go.
play. They want to play with dad. They haven't seen him all week.
Yep, exactly. So
Yep.
it's not fun.
No.
So day shift is much better. I get home at 5. Everybody's outside ready to play, and it's nice out now. So
Yeah, it's real
it's
nice.
been a nice week to be able to kind of get back into the normal swing of things. And I was on day shift for 3 years, and then I decided I was going to go be a team leader on second. Why I did that, I have no idea.
So would you say that even though you were on day shift, because again, working an assembly line job, in a high, I wouldn't say it's super high stress, but it is kind of high stress
Right.
with as many hours as we work, and we're always tired, so you're just constantly stressed out, and then you have families on top of it, which also doesn't help to the stress level.
Right.
And whatever. Would you say that at the time when you were on day shift 3 years ago, or for those 3 years, that your mental health was worse or better than when you just came back to day shift?
It was better.
Better.
I was able to, I would still pick fights with my wife and get into that kind of mood during the day. As soon as I got home, I was fine. And I was able to process it, which tells you how high stress GM can be. But yeah, it was a lot better. We didn't fight near as often, and even on second shift, we didn't fight near as often. It was just, that one day we'd be like, you only get that one day to de-stress. So Monday through Saturday, I'm like always mad. My wife would write me, I'm like, mad at her for no reason, and it was tanking my mental health and being so tired. And then Sunday they'd be like, oh, well, let's go do this. I'd be like, oh, really? Like, no, I'm good. So I would miss out on family events or whatever. And that's really kind of what led me to, well, my wife left me, and that's really what led me to go to Arizona. I left work without permission, but I scanned my badge like a moron. And so when I get back, Bill Brennan's staying at the desk, and everybody else is staying at the desk. And I'm like, oh crap, what did I do? And I'm like, they're like, either 30 days out with no pay, or you can go to this place. Well, they didn't tell me it was Arizona. They said you can go to a mental hospital. I'm like, all right. So I got a call the next day from this lady. She's like, oh, you're gonna go to Sierra Tucson. I'm like, wait, Tucson, Arizona? She's like, yeah, you're gonna be on a plane tomorrow. I'm like,
Wow.
oh, that's fast. Okay, guess.
So you literally got to the point where GM was fed up with you, and they're like, dude, you're going to get help or you're fired.
Yeah, and at least they had the wherewithal to say, hey, you need help.
Right. They didn't just fire you.
They didn't fire me on the spot and say,
Yeah.
you left without permission, that's a fireable offense, get out. They know I had mental health issues, and they took the opportunity to say, hey, what can we do to help you get better? Here's your option. Be smart about this option, because you're going to have 30 days out with no pay. We can fire you, or you can go to this place and get help. And I really appreciated that. I appreciated the thought process.
You said you appreciate it. At that point, though, were you wanting to? Were you like, because I mean, you left work,
Yeah.
because of your wife.
Yeah.
So were you in the right mindset to where you're like, yeah, I need to get help, or
Absolutely not.
no, you didn't want to?
It's not that I didn't want to. I had a long talk with the AP rep before that, and it went through suicidal ideations. It went through screw this place, I want to leave. He really sat down and calmed me down and got me to think straight and say, hey, get out of this state of mind. Let's figure this out. Let's get you some help. And he sat with me for probably an hour, hour and a half, trying to calm me down, and went through every single stage of probably PTSD you've ever seen. So the suicide, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I want to leave GM. The shop's too much. Every emotion I had going on, and he sat there with me and calmly talked me out of it. And all right, let's get this place done. And then the next morning, I shut my phone off, because I'd gone through that mode. When I got home, there's nobody there. Everything's gone. It's just like, crap, this is actually happening.
Kind of put you back in that spot.
Put me back in that spot. So I shut my phone off, only to be woken up by the Gratiot County Sheriff, which the AP rep had called because I wasn't answering my phone.
Oh, wow.
So I opened the door, and he goes, you might want to turn on your phone and talk to these people because they're calling our office nonstop, and they want to know where the heck you are. So I turn on my phone, 15 missed calls, whatever. So I called the AP rep back, and he goes, you need to talk to this woman. I'm not kidding. Get on the phone. So I call her. She's going to Arizona tomorrow. I'm like, oh boy, well, this is going to be interesting. So we got all that situated, and then off I went, and I'm surprised at myself that I went, because I had to drive all the way to Detroit, so my mental health had to be in a certain spot where I could drive to Detroit, get on the plane, and I'm afraid of heights, by the way, so that was another struggle, because I had to get on an airplane by myself.
You'd never been on a plane?
I had been on a plane, but my wife usually goes with me, and she doesn't book me on a window seat, because she knows better. So I was kind of worried I was going to get a window seat, and the first plane ride, no, I was stuck in the middle of two guys that kept talking to each other. And then on the way from Denver to Arizona, I had to sit in a window seat, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna make it. So it was a bit of a struggle, but I got there, and when you pull into the driveway, it says expect a miracle, and I didn't believe that. I was like, yeah, whatever, that's just a sign to get you excited and get you pumped up. And then when you leave, it says you are a miracle, and I really felt like it was a miracle to go there, to come out, and it's a process. I'm still working on it. I'm not quite there yet.
You're not perfect.
I'm not perfect. Right. No, not even close.
Probably never will be.
Nope. But I don't have as many issues mentally as I did before that. I'm able to process it a little bit better, and I think within time, getting used to the meds, getting into therapy, and getting a group of people around me that support me, and I know I can go to, that will really help.
Right.
Sooner or later, but it's just I'm a procrastinator, and I take my time doing things. So.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty well known that going to a place like this isn't going to change you.
Right.
It's not the place that changes you. It's not even those people that change you. It's what they teach you.
Right.
It's the tools that they give you to be able to handle the high stress situations, to be able to make it through the daily stress that you have to encounter every single day.
Right.
So you had said that you're kind of struggling now with getting back into work, and you just got back on day shift, so hopefully things kind of work itself back out a little bit.
Right.
What does the future look like for you? Are you in therapy now? Are you still doing that
EMDR?
EMDR.
Yep.
EMDR. Are you still doing that?
I haven't done that since I've been home, just because of being on second shift.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to, put that in there too. So being on day shift would definitely help get me into EMDR therapy, and psychiatrist, and get all that stuff started. And part of the reason I went back to Chassis 1, where I came from, is the people around there that will help me support me, and like you and Todd and all those people around there that have really pushed me to become a better person. That's what I needed to go back to, and that's why I'm happy I'm back where I'm supposed to be. So that'll help get into therapies and stuff like that, because I know Todd will push me to do that.
Todd's like your dad.
He is. And it's so funny because people
shout
will
out
be
to Todd Forbes.
Yeah, it's so funny because people will be like they'll make fun of me, like, oh, your dad this, your dad that. How's that funny? Like, he really has turned out to be like a father figure to me, and I really appreciate everything he's done to kind of push me to be a better person, and I've disappointed him a few times, talking smack to group leaders or whatever, but let's just say Chance is a troublemaker. he
He's had his fair share of being thrown out, cussing group leaders out.
Yeah, it's been a ride. I don't think group leaders like me too much, but
I mean,
he's been that person that's really saved my butt in GM and in other areas, and he's the best team leader I've ever had, and there's no question about that. I mean, you've had him as a team leader.
yeah, he's a good TL.
He is a good TL, and he's more than a TL. He tries to become your friend and tries to, he really cares about you than the people that he works, and that's why they all come back.
Right.
You go back to that team, and still the same people that were there 3 years ago.
Yep.
They all come back. They leave for a couple months and come right back.
Yep. Little side note, I'm putting in for that team.
Yeah, I heard that the other day. I'm like, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, like you had said, you kind of are who you surround yourself with.
Right.
And the people that you surround yourself with will either help you or they'll diminish you.
Right.
And if they're not helping you in a positive way, you need to be able to get away from them.
Yep.
So being around, people like that who can help you, especially as you're in the building block period
Right.
process, is real important, for you. I had a question. I don't remember what it was now.
That happens.
Okay, so you're in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You're on medication, and what's life look like now?
It's starting to look a little bit better. I had a interesting week, but just trying to get back into
The swing of everything.
The swing of everything, and trying to get things figured out. I kind of went on my own for a little while. The last couple weeks, trying to figure out what I wanted with my marriage and with just everything in that. And I don't know what was happening with me mentally, but it was kind of nice to just figure out, okay, I do want to be around, my family and do that process. And it was kind of nice to have that break, although it was, frustrating, but, I did that for myself to figure out what I wanted to do. So I came back from that, and, my wife and I are talking and trying to figure things out and see where we go from here. And I think that'll be a big step once we figure that out, and then get back in the groove and work and doing all that. But the therapies and stuff like that will help, and I want to get back into a group of people that understand, and have that back, because that's one thing I miss about Sierra Tucson, is having that group of people that really understood what you're going through.
A sense of community.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's programs like that out here that Sierra Tucson helps do, and then they have Zoom stuff they do too. So
Okay.
just to get into that, but
Wow.
not when you get home at 2:30 in the morning. It's really hard for,
It is hard.
or 3:30 in the morning. It's hard for you to find really anything because you're too tired to even want to do anything during the day. But
Right.
now that I get home at a decent time, when Arizona's 3 hours behind us, so by the time I get home, it's only 2 o'clock there. So
that's
I can go through a lot of the stuff that they still do. So
Right.
it'll be nice. It'll be a nice opportunity for me to reach back out and get contact with the people that really helped me get this far.
So, do you kind of see yourself in therapy? What's your goal? That's what I want to know.
Oh,
Are you planning on being in therapy for the rest of your life? Are you planning on just? I mean, obviously, you can only take it day by day.
right.
But what's your long-term goal for yourself?
So therapy will be the rest of my life. I'm not really sure I'm ever going to get to a place where I can not have therapy or not have meds or not have some sort of mental resource. I honestly believe my mental health is going to get worse as I get older, and I think there's more going on than PTSD. But that's for later times when I kind of figure out that that's what's happening. I did the best I could, and the most I came up with was PTSD. So I just figuring out how that works. But it's definitely going to be something that I'm going to do the rest of my life, and it's something that's going to have to take, me focusing on that and doing that every single day, and like you said, taking it day by day by day.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just can't give it up. You can't say to yourself one day, I feel better, I'm gonna stop taking my meds.
Right.
Stop going to
Don't
therapy.
do that.
Don't do that. Because then you're just gonna fall right back down.
Yep.
And that's
You might be fine for that day, but
Right.
then you wake up the next day and you're in a spot
yep.
mentally.
And I believe, my personal opinion is, it gets worse. The more you do that, the worse it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're like, oh well, people will help me, and then you're like, all right, I don't need to take my meds today. and because you think you have these resources. Well, you can burn those resources out too.
Right.
I mean, you can only ask for so much help before people are like, well, he's not going to do anything about it.
Now, is there any other forms of, I guess, therapy that you've tried out, like as far as like, because I mean, there's a lot of research in like working out.
Mm-hmm.
Like working out helps with releasing these stresses and your hormones. Like it helps balance things out a little bit chemically in your brain.
Right.
I know for me, like if I get angry, working out helps me tremendously. Like if I do a really hard workout, I feel really good afterwards. Like
Right.
I feel like a nicer person. Um, have you ever tried that, or are you ever interested in doing something like that to kind of mitigate having to go to therapy all the time, or even maybe possibly being able to get off medication later on in life as you get stronger with mentally?
Yeah. See, that's definitely something I've always wanted to do. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and I used to have 6-pack abs and be buff, super buff, and I loved it. I loved working out. I loved being able to spend that time in the weight room and stuff like that. And that's something I definitely want to get back to. For me, I have social anxiety, so it's hard for me to be like, I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna hang out with. I always find excuses not to do it, because being around people kind of bothers me. I don't like that. Like this right now, I don't know how the heck I got here. 'Cause I was panicking the whole time, like, oh god, okay, you can do this. So that's something I struggle with. But yeah, I definitely want to start working out again and doing that. But for me, it's being outside with my kids and playing basketball or whatever weird event we come up with. That's kind of my release, my stress release, and how I deal with things. And it's so frustrating for them sometimes because like if I'm in a depression mode and I'm on the couch and I don't want to get up, and that for them is like, what is going on? Like why are
They
you?
don't understand
Yeah.
it.
They
Why
don't
is,
get it.
why is dad not playing?
Right, yeah, and that's I always try. That's why day shift's so much better. You're already up. You're already out of the house. You get home. They want to go outside and play. You're already up.
Right.
That's why it's so much easier to be able to go outside and be like, okay, let's go play.
It's it's more of a natural time of day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That definitely helps. So, it definitely something I always find ways for that to release the stress, and that's why second shift was so hard because I couldn't find ways to do that. But yeah, the working out is definitely something I want to look into, and I've reached out to you about it before, and
Yeah.
like I said, the social anxiety thing just bugs me. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in for sure.
I think you should definitely look into it. You could even like get equipment to bring home. Like all you need is dumbbells.
Right.
A couple dumbbells, and you'll be able to do anything.
Right.
Or even just like body weight stuff. Like, or maybe even like running. Like it sucks to start running.
Right.
But like I'm in the process of that right now. I did that 50-mile run in January, and then ever since then, it's cured me of wanting to run.
I would imagine.
So I just started running again, and it's hard. It's hard taking the one step, two step. I'm like I have to think about every single step. I'm like,
Right.
oh, next step. But that might be something that would help you, kind of reach your goals, because forcing yourself to have to accomplish something, like it does something to yourself in your brain where when before you go, you don't want to run. You don't want to, like, if you have a 3-mile run planned or even a mile run plan, you don't want to do it.
Right.
You're looking at your shoes and you're like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
But as soon as you get out there, get going, you're half mile in, you're a mile in, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, I need to accomplish this. And then once you accomplish it, you get home, you're like, oh, I feel great.
Right.
I'm sore, I'm tired, I'm sweaty. I earned it. I feel good.
Maybe you want to go work out right now.
Well, have a gym right there. So, so yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's something that you should look into. I think it might be beneficial.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I guess is there anything else you really want to talk about?
I just say that if you're really struggling with mental health, reach out to somebody. Don't hide it.
Family
members, co-workers, somebody that you're comfortable with. Because if you sit there and you hide it and you don't tell somebody about it, it's going to get worse. And it's I think that's why You see suicide rates as high as they are is because people are afraid to reach out, and there are resources in Michigan. I'm not saying that they're not, but as far as my personal story, I haven't found the resources that I needed. I had to go out of state, but even family or friends can help you if you're in a particular situation that you need help out of. And I think it's really
you just might need somebody to talk to.
right, exactly. I think it's really important if you're really struggling with something, even if it seems trivial and small and stupid to your brain. To somebody else, maybe it's not. Maybe they want to reach out and help you, and help you with that through that situation. I think it's super important to have somebody to reach out to, and I mean, even if go to the police station and talk to a police officer, or a fireman, or somebody you feel comfortable around. As long as you reach out and tell somebody what you're struggling with, because that's huge. I joke around about my story and my issues and things that I've gone through, and sometimes I'm embarrassed about it because I'm like, well, I shouldn't have said that to somebody. But I feel better. I feel better saying it and being like, I messed up, and sometimes it turns out to be a conversation where I feel better about the situation. Like, okay.
Well, I think that's kind of how you and I started talking about like our past. Is you made a joke about something? I was like, what? You were in foster care?
Yeah. Yep.
And then we just kind of talked about it from there.
Yep, I remember that day very clearly.
Yeah.
Because it kind of helped me process, all right, I'm not the only one that's been through all this.
And that's the problem with not talking about things to people, is people often feel that they're alone.
Right.
And by reaching out to people, you'll learn that you're not the only person that's been through that. You're not the only person that's had to go into foster care, or the only person that's been sexually abused or physically abused. So many people have experienced the same thing, and by reaching out to other people, it could help tremendously.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, that you don't know somebody by the way they look or the way they act or the way you perceive them. I could be completely normal to somebody and they not know what I went through. Reaching out to people and talking about that, you might find best friends in certain people that you would never even imagine. You and I have been friends for a long time, and more than just our stories meshing. We were friends before that, but it's reaching out is so important in mental health. You can't just do it by yourself. It's impossible. And we've lost a lot of people to suicide because they didn't reach out, because they didn't
seek the help.
They didn't, and people thought they were completely normal and they didn't see the signs. And I don't think that's people's fault, but
no, I mean it's a state of mind that you get into when you're in a situation like that. You just shut down. You don't want to talk to anybody. You really don't care to seek help.
Right.
I mean, like you had said that when GM were there, like, you need to do something. You need to go get help. You didn't want to do that.
Right.
But you did.
Yep.
Because they forced you to do it. But if they gave you the option, would you? If they were like, hey, Chance, you can still have your job, but we recommend that you go to this place in Tucson, Arizona.
I think at the time, if that would have been the question posed, I would have.
You would have
done it eventually. I don't think I would have done it that day. I would
eventually.
Have been like,
there's a procrastination.
Well, yeah, there's procrastination to that too. But I would have been like, let me go home right now and think about it. And then I think processing that situation, like, man, Arizona, Lauren's gone. What do I have to lose? I probably would have gone back to GM and been like, okay, I'll do that. I'll suck it up and do it for a little while, because I was already thinking before that, like, I have to do something. I don't know what it is, and I was even telling myself I have to do something major. I have to do something major in my life in order to get this stuff turned around, or I'm gonna lose everything. I've been with my wife for 15 years. My son's 9, my daughter's 4. Like, I don't want to lose all that. And the way I'm acting, the way that I'm portraying myself to her and to my kids, I'm going to lose all that. And that was way before even this event happened. So I think, if they would have posed that question to me, it wouldn't have been that day, but it would have been, probably the next day or the day after that. And I would have gone to the AP rep and been like, all right, let's do it. Why not? I got to save my marriage somehow. And that would have been the driving force for me to do it. But
well, that's one thing that, again, I have to admit about you, is you've always kind of made that proactive choice, is like you've always tried to make that proactive decision, like, what do I need to do to change my situation or change my life, even though you might end up back into the same position a couple months later, like mentally, or like if you're back into jail, or whatever. Like, you take 2 steps forward, take 2 steps back. Take 2 steps forward, take 2 steps back. And then by you going to this place in Arizona, dude. I was telling Amanda, my wife, that when you went, I told her when you went because I'd seen you posted on Facebook, and I'm like, Chance is in rehab again. I was like, I hope he, whatever issue he has, he gets worked out. And then like a month later, or a little longer, I seen you at work, and dude, I could see a complete difference. I'm in your face and the way you had reacted. You've always kind of been like this lively person, but I've always there was always like this like negativity about you, I guess. I don't really know like how to say it, but like you'd be positive, but then you just kind of be negative about yourself.
Yeah.
You'd always kind of put yourself down, and you'd do it jokingly.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed a difference after you came back, and I'm like, he's doing it. Like he whatever he did, it worked, and it really worked out well for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and that's part of the struggle too, is trying to keep that going. Like I said, I'm a procrastinator, so part of that's keeping it going. And I've had a weird conversation with somebody on Facebook. I posted something on there being negative. I don't know why I do that, and she's like, "You're a really negative person," and I'm like, "Wait a minute,
am I?" And
then I read the message back, and I'm like, "Oh, that's not good." I was like, I gotta quit doing that. She goes, I see you post stuff all the time, comments on people's stuff that's just kind of mean. And I'm like, huh, all right, that's something I gotta fix, I guess. So I haven't really been on Facebook much because I don't want to do that anymore. I kind of want to step away from that. If that's how I'm going to be on Facebook and be perceived by other people,
right?
That's going backwards to me. But,
right.
I don't want to do that anymore. But
I find social media to be like this negative source of mental illness anyways. Yeah. Going on there, I get like a little sense of depression.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, these people are literally I don't know if you noticed, but I don't really share much on Facebook.
Right.
Like I might make a post or two, but it's usually about like the podcast or like my kids or something like that. I never really share much. Maybe some motivation stuff here and there, because this world needs some positivity.
Exactly.
But I see these posts and people on Facebook all day, which I'll admit I'm on Facebook a lot during the day because I'm bored.
Right.
But I'm like, man, these people are just sharing these things constantly, and like how sad is that that's what these people's lives consist of. And typically it's it's negative things. It's political things. It's things to that they're trying to dive into to kind of drown themselves out from the things outside of outside of the social media.
Yeah, and like you said, Facebook especially, any social media is not a good place to go if you're not mentally stable enough to do it, because it will tear you down. And knowing that I'm somebody that tears somebody else down, I'm like, I don't know how she knows how much of an impact that conversation had, because it was just like, man, all right, I kind of got to stay away from doing that and maybe look at the positivity of something.
You want to give a shout out to that person?
I don't remember her name, or I would.
Oh, well, shout out to the person that changed Chance's life on social media.
Yeah, it makes me question, what I'm gonna post from now on, and things that I'm gonna say, and maybe not look so much at the negativity, and also stay off Facebook as much. But
yeah, because obviously whatever you post or whatever you were commenting on had a profound impact on other people.
Right. And
that's...
Yeah, and you never really notice people that watch you on Facebook until somebody says something to you. My wife brings it up all the time, where we'll go on vacations and people will be like, oh, that looked like a really nice trip. And she's like, oh, I didn't know that person even looked at my Facebook, or whatever the situation may be. So you never really know who you reach on Facebook, how far reaching it can be, and the impact that you might have on somebody else. So I think from now on, my Facebook is going to positive commenting and things of that nature, and I really want to focus on that. I've always wanted to be like that. It's just
it's kind of a mindset.
Yeah, you got to push yourself to do that.
You just got to change your mindset.
Yeah, I don't want to be that negative, like you said. Always negative about myself. I'm trying to work on that as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do more things for me that make me feel more confident about myself.
Working out, I'm telling you, man, working out.
All this stuff going on here, and nobody really likes it, but I like it. So
imagine if you're jacked. You're jacked and you have those piercings.
Yep.
It'd be scary Chance.
I mean, I'm scary now, toothless, piercings, and kind of a big guy, but I don't know. I've had fun with it, and it's trying to be more myself and push myself to be who I want to be.
Right.
And people might not like it, but whatever. That's your choice.
Well, I mean, it's all about you and what you want.
Right.
Again, screw other people.
Exactly.
You don't have to not get a face piercing because somebody doesn't want you to.
Right.
Yep,
I agree. It's something I've always wanted to do since I was 16, 17 years old, and I saw this guy walk down the road with, kind of the same piercings. I'm like, oh, that guy looks cool. I want to do that someday. And it's just, my wife said, are you a little too old for that? Like, you got kids, at least I'll teach them to express yourself, be who you want to be, I have tattoos and piercings and everything, so, they want that when they're 18, 19 years old, they can go express themselves that way. And I feel like that's important, too, to express who you are. It's fine. People are not going to like it. People are going to like it.
Yeah.
If you like it, if you like what you look like, if you like what you see in the mirror when you wake up in the morning and you're going to walk out the door, what's everybody else's opinion?
Right.
What does that matter?
Exactly.
It's about what you think of when you look in the mirror.
Yep.
And that's the way I go about, or try to go about my life. Sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes I walk out and don't even look in the mirror. I'm like, whatever. People are just going to have to deal with it. But most of the time I look in the mirror and be like, all right, I'm all right with what I look like today. Forget everybody else.
I look sexy today.
Yeah. I think I look sexy today. Forget what everybody else thinks. I might look like a homeless guy that just walked out of a box to somebody, but, oh well, they can move on with their day. But, yeah, I think that's important. The two things I think are important are be proud of who you are, and then don't be afraid to tell somebody if you're struggling. And then you'll feel better for the most part. I mean, somebody might say something mean to you and you want to knock them out, but forget those people. That's apparently the wrong person to tell.
Or just knock them out.
That'll feel better. Just make sure you do it in a situation where, you don't end up behind bars for 4 days.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you don't want that.
You don't want to do that. Just be careful with it.
Yeah, you've always kind of been good about, well, I wouldn't say, sorry, I want to change what I was about to say. People always perceive you differently.
Mm-hmm.
People don't necessarily look at you like you're this thought out, like, because you make jokes about everything. Like at work, you just kind of like, you don't care.
Right.
Like you just have this I don't care attitude. Not necessarily not a bad thing at all, but like as far as like the things that happen during the day, like, yeah, you don't really care. Line shuts down, you don't care. Just whatever. Somebody talks crap, you don't care.
I don't.
And so people kind of, they look at you in a different light, but you actually have a lot of good perspectives and a lot of good thoughts about mental illness.
Thank you.
And I'm definitely really glad that you were able to go get help and find help that was actually successful and beneficial for you. Because again, like you said, you were in a really bad spot. You're suicidal, and that's not a good spot to be in.
No, it's not a fun place to be, and it is the one place where if you end up in that spot, that is the most dangerous place to be. You really have to have somebody that's going to reach out and pull you out of that spot. I can't imagine people that have gone through with that where you are mentally. In that spot, where you are mentally. It's such a scary spot. And to be there and still be alive and kicking and taking people off, I mean, that's a good start. But I want so badly for people to hear that there's help and there are better days ahead. Your life's not always going to suck, and especially if you put in the work and you do what you're supposed to do. Life isn't always going to suck. It isn't always going to be dark clouds and thunder and lightning. And there's sunshine somewhere. You just got to be able to find it. And that's the hard part. I'm still working on it. I'm still young. I'm still, not quite there yet, but there's sunshine somewhere, and you just got to keep pushing and keep finding it. And, sometimes I'll fall back down and, there'll be a rainstorm or whatever someday, but just got to push through it.
But then you'll have the friends that you've acquired there to help pick you up. You have your family, your kids, your wife, and, by you, again, like I said earlier, by you searching for help, and it'll make the people that are closest to you realize that, you are acknowledging that there's a problem and that you need to fix it.
Right.
And it'll help them to be more apt to want to be there to help you pick you up when you do fall.
Right. Yeah. And like having this conversation here has opened my eyes to a few other things I might need to work on, and that's part of the reason I came, is to have your perspective and then have this conversation. It's eye opening and a part of the recovery process too. To be able to see what other people see, especially people I work with. I mean, that's kind of important. You see these people 50 some hours a week, more than your own family.
But you don't know their story.
You don't know their story.
We don't talk about it.
Yeah,
Nobody talks about this stuff at work.
Yep.
It's more of like just short,
Yep.
like, hey, how you doing? What are you doing this weekend type thing. It's not about, hey, like, tell me about yourself.
Yep.
Let's have a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like if the line goes down, you just shoot the shit for a minute and back to what you were doing. It's very, GM can be a very lonely job.
It can be.
It can be very, it can be bad for your mental health, because you're stuck listening to your radio all day. And what you decide to put in your ears and in your head can affect how you go the rest of the day. And I know this for a fact because I would listen to murder shows and be like really upset the rest of the day and be like, all right, probably shouldn't do that anymore. But like I've listened to your show, like I told you that day, I was listening to your show on the plane, and it's just like motivation to keep pushing. And I don't remember which episode it was, but it was just very motivating and very, pushed me to want to be better, and not have to put my wife and my kids through the stuff that they went through. And so far so good. I mean, it's a little bit stressful for my wife because I'm trying to find myself and trying to push myself to be a little bit better, but and she doesn't quite get it, like what I'm doing. She's very frustrated with that, but for me it's working. So
it's a process that has to work for you.
Right. And she'll get it eventually once things kind of simmer down and I find what I'm supposed to do. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a fun journey.
Well, dude, your story is no different than anybody else I've had on the podcast. It's a story of success. It's a success in progress.
Right.
Even, I mean, you may fall in the future, but that doesn't mean you're a failure. You just get back up and you keep going.
Yep, exactly.
And it's tremendous, man. I'm really proud that you were able to find help and that you're on the path to recovery mentally.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Well, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been an honor having you on. I guess with that, we'll end it. See you, folks.